Everybody, Jason Burmis here, and I gotta tell you, last night I was extremely encouraged by what I saw go down in Houston, Texas. Now, if you've been following the program, if you've watched my previous video on the UFC coming back to Florida, there were a lot of disappointments there. There were a lot of things that I pointed out that said, you know what? This doesn't jive with me. This isn't far enough, in my opinion. What was I talking about? Well, everybody keeps talking about how, Florida is like the freest state, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But is that really the truth? Okay. Now, number one, I want to reiterate that events have been going on in the United States of America in various places, aside from all the protests that you saw, whether they were BLM on one side or pro-Trump on the other. We could talk about the political rallies themselves that Trump held. We could talk about Sturgis. We could even talk about sporting events that preceded the UFC coming back in Florida, such as Canelo Alvarez in Texas, which had some restrictions, right? Now, this UFC card was the first one last night that had no restrictions other than signing a waiver. I'm going to show you that waiver, and full capacity, and that's important. Now, to pull it back for a moment and talk about Florida, what didn't I like about Florida? There were two things. Number one, they were encouraging you to use COVID Pass. I was like, whoa, I was going to spend the money and go. And it was like a ridiculous amount of money. Okay? Believe the hype. All right? It was a ridiculous amount of money, but I was going to do it because I was like, yes. All right? Finally, some freedom. But I didn't want to go through either a medical tent and fill out a questionnaire. That's not acceptable to me. To talk about, anything to do with me and my body, okay, in a medical sense, whether I've had a procedure or not, period. That is not an option for me. And neither is some kind of a digital slave passport. Sorry. No, 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 no. And that didn't happen last night. You signed a waiver, and that's it. If they want to sign a waiver, I'm not thrilled with that. But at the same time, that's fine with me. That's A-OK with me compared to everything else. And guess what? The only masks I saw were staff, and they were like not every staff of the UFC around the ring. You couldn't find a mother trucking mask in there. Take a look. And by the way, thumbs this up, subscribe, and share. I mean, play the game, guys. See if you can find one. So what am I trying to say? What's this video actually going to be about? Well, it's going to be about you standing up in your state for freedom and pointing out the numerous cases. For instance, when I talk about varying levels of freedom and kind of how we're acting, yes, I believe the UFC just had 15,000 people there. All right. Again, I've been calling fights since I came and moved here last, at the end of 2020 with a capacity of just under 1,000. Okay. And obviously people are being people more and more and more. And I'm in the back and I'm watching these these are athletes. We're talking about a paper mask and they're bumping chests with one another. I mean, come on. These are fighters. And the crowd. And I've streamed some of the after parties where, you don't have to get up and wear a mask when you go to the bathroom and all these other ridiculous, ludicrous restrictions where we're not wearing them on Main Street, et cetera, et cetera. So again, before we get into the particulars and I show you exactly what the waiver was that they signed, and again, how this is encouraging, showing you, listen, I'm going to say it again. There has been no super spreader events at anything the media has demonized, from Sturgis to now this. Some of the headlines are like, people risk their lives. Really? Really? I mean, millions of people a day in every single state are in their grocery stores. I'm just so done playing pretend with everybody. And again, it's not like it's an N95 mask that can stop a virus. Let's be clear. So guys, remember to Rockfin, make that free account. The documentary films, they're also over there, right? You can see Fabled Enemies over there in high quality, Loose Change Final Cut, Invisible Empire, Shade the Motion Picture, that's all there. But they're also here on Odyssey as my entire channel is backed up. We never know if we're going to get kicked off. It looks like we might actually be able to make it. I think like in another couple weeks or a week or so, I lose my other strike. And then we just have a warning. Ooh. Yeah, but they're all here in the documentary playlist section. Please check them out, especially if you haven't. If you don't understand where I'm coming from, if you're new to tuning in, and you think that like I'm some conspiracy theorist or I'm alt right or I'm just like a total crazy person. I'm none of those things. Or that I hate liberals. No. Right? You don't hear like liberal out of my mouth every 2 seconds because I think it's like ridiculous. I keep telling people, guys, I don't care how you voted. And if you think that everybody that was in Houston, Texas watching that was a Republican or somehow a Trump, come on, man, as Joe would say in his feeble-minded zombie way. Come on, give me a break. Give me a break there. So let's start talking about this stuff. Record-breaking UFC gate numbers. That's how much people want to get back to it. You understand? Record-breaking gate numbers. And this was obviously earlier in the event. Packed house. By the way, this is 261. That's why. 261, they weren't allowed to go full. So they're showing you a 261 crowd. But 262, packed house. Packed house. 4 million gate. It shows people are done. They're done. They need to be. And you got to push back in New York, man. I see Naomi Wolf grinding over at Daily Clout. Shout out to Naomi Wolf. Thank you. But she hadn't understood that one of the sneaky things that they did. Remember we did that report on how I was like, wow, maybe they're finally going to rein him in. They're going to take the emergency powers away from Andrew Cuomo, right? And then slowly but surely, we found out what they actually did was they said they stripped him of his powers, but then they put all those powers into law, making it harder for people to litigate them because this is about a bigger thing than Andrew Capo Cuomo and sexual assault allegations. When you have, just the most crazy restrictions going on there, the craziest of policies, ridiculous crime in New York City. And again, the evisceration of the middle class by design to bring in rolling authoritarian lockdowns for what is left of the middle class under the guise of climate change, what they want to do so badly, creating a carbon market, which they don't have to abide by, don't worry. Right? Just like you'll own nothing, they'll own it all. But don't worry, we'll slowly get you ready for the robot transhumanist takeover and the automation nation that slowly comes in with your nice little universal basic income. That's the plan. They hate you. They hate small businesses. And, I don't condone these sort of things, and we're not going to play this. I haven't even watched it, actually, but I thought it was, something we could go over really quick on this. UFC 262 fans have fight of their own as brawl breaks out in the stands. So, again, you'll see that, nobody's wearing a mask. We got a little punchy going on in the stands. And on top of that, I remember I went to my first event in Texas, the UFC anyway, my first UFC. I'd been to smaller shows. And Joe Rogan, Alex Jones set it up through Joe Rogan. I met Rogan, Ari. Who else did we meet? Met Eddie Bravo. How can I forget that? At that, and yes, I saw a brawl at Dallas as well. They don't hype these up, obviously, as it's going. They don't encourage them. But just to show you again, this is how scared people are of, COVID-1984 at this point. So it's something to point out. And then I want to show everybody, this is the waiver. This is with the supplemental terms to go. you know, and they, basic standard legalese. I'm adhering to this as a legal document. Here it is right here. Boom. You got the ticket holder of the event. And it's like, obviously you can see here that, you're not experiencing any symptoms, blah, blah, blah. Basically, you're saying you're not sick. There's no check. Okay. And that's it. You're agreeing to all this. Boom. Assumption of risk. Fine. And that's it. Boom. And it's a liability. I mean, listen, if you're going to inject people with substances multiple times that are based in a technology, mRNA, that DARPA created in secret programs, and you're going to give them full liability waivers, right? When, you bring this new boopity-boop into play, okay? Think about that. You're bringing that into play through another military operation called Operation Warp Speed. Go look up how much of that's really classified. Understand, mRNA, CRISPR, it's here. It's here. You give me the choice of signing this to say, hey, I might get sick, and I'm not sick walking in, and that's not your problem, and I can't sue you if something goes wrong, other than multiple injections, and something does go wrong, and I certainly can't. I mean, geez, I wonder which one I'm going to choose. Come on. Common sense, folks. So that's going to do it for this video. Thumbs it up, subscribe, and share. Make at least the free Rockfin account. You're going to want to make the free Rockfin account. Let me tell you why. If you have not seen this video right here behind me, this is what a true hero looks like. Yeah, it's on YouTube, but you missed 20 minutes of it. And you miss Dr. Richard Bartlett's testimony before the Texas Senate. Talk about Texas winning. You're not going to see this on Fox News, MSNBC, CBS. None of it. Nada. Zip. Zilch. Okay? And this guy's been kicking and screaming now for well over a year about a very important issue that I can't talk about here, but sure does dovetail with this here phase 2 open label randomized control trial. And it sure does dovetail with this, Oxford study, which he mentions in there, which suggests that inhaled budesonide reduced the relative risk of requiring urgent care or hospitalization by 90% in the 28-day study period. I could read more, because it's all good news right there. But they don't want you to hear good news. They don't want you to know that people are actually living their lives without fear with other people, right? People for picnics. I'm going to a barn today to meet with other people of like minds to try to figure out how we can push back against the authoritarianism that's here in Iowa. And Iowa by far, is one of the least restrictive states in the union. But it all needs to go. And you need to be your own hero. And you need to step up like Richard Bartlett did. And I don't have all the answers. But, again, I'm going to the Make America Free Again thing right now. We are hopefully going to be talking on the line. I know Pam Popper's supposed to be giving a speech there. But more importantly, figuring out how to litigate against these bastards. So basically right now what's going on with this Make America Free Again, and Naomi Wolf actually had one of the New York guys on recently. I watched it yesterday. It's about 30 minutes. That's where Wolf realized it was worse than she thought, because these people that stripped Cuomo of his ability to use these emergency powers just put him into law, which is even deadlier, right? But basically he talked about the lawfare that's being waged and showing that they have to show that there is an emergency. And he couldn't get into all of it, but he was talking about doctor documents, and he was talking about incorrect numbers, and he was talking about whistleblowers that needed their identity to remain, anonymous at this point, because look what we're dealing with. So I would encourage everybody to go check that out. Again, make the free account. I think I see Spiro in the chat. Love his work. I know he's back on Twitter. I know he's got, I believe, a Rumble account. We need to get him on Rockfin, man. Come on over, man, please. DM me. I'd love to. I could set you up tomorrow. I'm sure Jaime and the gang over at Rockfin would love to have you. And I know that, we need more people that are pointing out the evidence. Jamie Deluxe, for instance, literally put out, and I shared it because, he does great work too. An FDA, you know what? Let's do it live because why not, right? We'll do it live. And I put it into my own post because it's like, it's ridiculous. We're in cartoon land, right? So here it is right here. Shout out to Deluxe. Oh, sorry. Wrong one here. Okay. So Deluxe says, from the FDA's website, why push it so hard? Now here's the link to the FDA and the Emergency Use Authorization Act. And I just point out, but parrots can't read. They just repeat talking points. So, I don't even want to read this. Let me see. Is it there? Yeah. So we'll get my head out of the way. You can read it for yourself. Nor is there evidence that the boop boop, prevents transmission from person to person. I mean, just, don't read, don't think for yourself, period. Guys, I love you. Thanks for joining me. Thumbs it up, subscribe, share. You know the deal. We want to stay on YouTube with what we can, and we want to bring you over to a free speech platform. Basically, everything I put out on YouTube there is also free here with extras if you see uncensored, right? And then, I'm putting up throwbacks for the premium members. Here's me in 2009 going through those Illuminati pull cards, and we're having fun with those. I didn't realize that there was actually some media coverage from the London Independent and Yahoo News like a week before I started doing the card pulls. So probably right around where Sam Tripoli got the set. And then there's actually a CIA.gov PDF. So, the CIA didn't create the PDF, but they reference it, and it's in their government library. So the next time we do one of those pulls, we're going to be going over all that. Again, if you do make a premium account, you get my stuff, you get everybody's stuff on the platform. Last American Vagabond, Unlimited Hangout. Right now, I think Slow News Day is live. They're talking the Gaza Strip. Believe me, my feed is inundated with that stuff. It's wild. We're going to be covering that more probably later tonight, depending on when I get back from this thing. I'm driving out a little ways. So yeah, make sure to make at least the free Rockfin account. You can support me other ways. The links are down below. Odyssey, thank you for backing my shiz up. All the docs are free. Please check them out. Please share them with others. I love you guys, and I'll see you on the flip.